Well, good evening. This is going to be an interesting one. I can tell you now, I've been a fan of tonight's guest, well, since 2012. Her work is just simply amazing, and I am unbelievably excited to have her on here. But as usual, I've got a few things to run through before we get to that point. And the first one, of course, is that this is from the Flux Review. So the Flux Review magazine is out. It's edition 11. I know that Lisa will be working on edition 12 shortly, and as you can see, there are artist interviews. There's a lot of information about the world of art. It's a big magazine, and you can get it in places like Waterstones and also different art galleries and places, and of course online as well. Which leads on to the fact that the next Flux exhibition is next May, in Marylebone, the same place it was last time, which is an absolutely fantastic venue called the Bomb Factory. It's quite industrial inside, leads itself into being a fantastic exhibition, around about 70 plus artists. It's on, as you can see, from the 15th to 18th, with the private view on Thursday the 15th. And the next part of, again, about all of that is that the Collectibles Club is going to be launching this month, and there is the first sort of competition for that is already ready to go, and you can win a piece of Caterina Diaz's art. So yeah, it's a lot's happening, but a lot's happening tonight too. So tonight's guest, I'm probably best thing I can do is actually play the video that I've put together of her work, and when we talk about how Cheryl does what she does, you will be as blown away as I am. So let's just bring a video up, and you'll see exactly what I mean. As I said, quite staggering, and in fact, we're going to find out all about her process, which in itself is I was a bit taken away because we spoke about it earlier. So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is bring Cheryl in. Hopefully, you can hear me, Cheryl.
Yes, I should
Good.
hire you to do all my promos. That was great.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's very. Your work is just amazing, and to be honest, I could have done with that being another 10 minutes worth with the amount of work you have. Your website is completely rammed with work that you've obviously completed over the last however many years, because I imagine you've got way more than is actually on your website. You've been doing this for a long time, probably 12 years, I think. And
12,
it's,
15 years.
yeah,
I've
it's,
done over 400 photo shoots.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then that's in your own pool.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the interesting part for me is that if you're shooting in your pool, you're controlling the environment, and therefore it's in a
Mhm.
similar way that I do with the studio. You're controlling the lighting, you're controlling everything about that environment, which gives you the full control that you're looking for, which is quite amazing. So tell me, look, I know everybody asks you this same question. Um, and I know because you've even got it on your website that everybody asks you this same question.
Hmm.
And I thought, shall I be different? Shall I ask something different? But no, of course, people are going to want to know
Yeah.
why underwater. So
Why
why
underwater?
underwater?
Well, I had been doing portrait and fashion photography in studio. I've been a photographer for over 20 years now, and I love being a photographer. I love using a camera, and I love photographing people. So I had been doing portrait and fashion photography in studio or on location, often with hair and makeup and stylists and people around. And it was always chaotic and somewhat chaotic and stressful. I'm an introvert and I like things quiet and peaceful and calm. So after work, I would come home and go into my swimming pool and sit on the bottom of the swimming pool where it was calm and peaceful and quiet and no one could bother me. And I would do that all the time. And then one day I thought to myself while sitting on the bottom of my swimming pool, if I could just work here.
Yeah.
And it's like other people photograph underwater. Why can't I? So it took quite a few years to figure it out. But, once I got the science of it all dialed in, then it just, now in a way it's just a piece of cake. But the first model I put into the water and I watched her just relax completely. And it's like, okay, so this is good not just for me, but for the models too. And my whole point with the work is to capture that sense and feeling of peace and quiet and tranquility and no stress. Everything is going to be okay. That relaxed feeling. Yeah. So that's why I
Yeah.
work underwater.
Yeah. And I can sort of relate that to the pods that you can go into with the Epsom salts and lay there and be completely, completely it's just you. Um,
Hmm.
Obviously, you've got a model at the other end that you're photographing, but if they're in the same sort of space as you, as such, that whole thing about controlling the environment you're in is
Yeah.
is the thing that I think that matters. Also, and this is unbelievably true of me. It's really quite interesting how our our paths, if you like, aren't they're not in the same thing, but they're quite similar in that we both work with creative people.
Yes.
I have a lot of creative people that surround me with props and costumes and stuff that I use to photograph. And similar, I'm guessing that you have a team that comes up with the costumes. Some, I guess, come from you as well. I'm assuming that, which sort of leads me on to potentially my first kind of question, which sort of revolves around, if you like, the methods that you use to, for instance, this picture that we've got here. Um, this is obviously I've taken this straight off your website, which is what I've done with most of these, and it's quite rightly you've got your watermark across there to stop anybody stealing your work, which is
Well, it doesn't
great.
stop the stealing,
No,
but it shows
no,
my intention.
yeah, exactly. No, it doesn't. That's something we all have to put up with, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But so my question, and I ask this almost of every artist I interview, which is what determines your color palette. Now, for instance, this particular image that we're looking at here, you know, it's a very distinctive image, very distinctive color palette to it. is that something you sit down and talk with the model before and the people that are putting the costume together, or is it something you leave to them?
It's a combination.
Mm,
In this particular case, this model owns this gown. This gown is by Firefly Path. She's a designer here in LA. And of course, I mean, with a color palette like that, the teal and the orange,
mm,
you know,
yeah,
I can't go wrong. So,
no, absolutely.
fortunately, I get to work with a number of designers who not only have amazingly beautiful and well constructed gowns and outfits, but the
Mm,
color palette is beautiful. So with this particular one, it was there for me. Yeah.
yeah, and that the other thing, the other trick for me is working with people who understand what you're actually trying to achieve in terms of the model. You've got somebody underwater. Obviously, one of the big things would be making sure that there's no air bubbles. So I'm guessing not only they have to hold your breath, but so do you.
Hmm.
And so and I'm also bearing in mind that if you are full of air, you float. Um, do they have to expel their air? Because actually, it's quite hard to stay underwater for a reasonable amount of time when you've expelled the air. It seems a bit weird. So they must spend a good bit of time sort of getting used to being able to do that. Really.
Like this particular model, Naji, her working name is Mermaid Kyrie, and she is a professional mermaid. She has a day job, but she is also a professional mermaid, and she can hold her breath for, I think it's 4 minutes. She's
Wow.
taken extensive courses in, diving, free diving, that type of thing. The way I work, communication is key. Talking to each other is key.
Yeah.
So we come up out of the water, talk. We talk before the shoot, obviously, but then, the whole time during the shoot, we come up and talk, and then we go under. I go under first, and then I have them go under. And I always tell them, you come up when you're ready. Don't wait for me. There's no pressure on them whatsoever to stay
No.
under for very long. If
Right.
they're under for 10 seconds and they come up, it's, you're amazing, you're great, you're wonderful. The only problems I run into is when they try to hold their breath for 2 minutes or more. My top out of comfort is 2 minutes. I can hold my breath for 2 minutes. But doing that over and over and over again for a couple of hours, that's exhausting. And I don't
Yeah.
want either of us, to get exhausted. So um, most of them are blowing all their air out before they go under. So they're under for 30, 60, maybe 90 seconds. And then they're coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So I've got a little bit of again taking this from your Facebook page, but a little bit of video which kind of gives people a bit of an idea, a bit of a sense of what happens while you're doing a shoot. And you can see I'm going to stop that for a second and just bring that back because here we can see you on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Um, so I also know because I've obviously done a good bit of research from your website. You have your camera. You have the frame that sits around your camera, the underwater frame, that was something that you spent a long time getting right, and worked with a couple of companies, didn't you, to get that to work for you?
As far as the underwater housing goes, I've
Yeah,
only ever worked with one company,
yeah,
and that's Iwa Marine.
that's it.
It's a
Yeah,
German company.
yeah,
Um, and of course, people look at it and say, "Oh, it's just a bag." You have a bag on your camera. No, it's an underwater housing. It's the one I use is made specifically for fashion photography in a controlled setting. It's not made for being out in the ocean or in the waves or, it's made specifically for what I do. And I don't
mm,
think there is a better underwater housing for what I do
Mm.
than what I'm using. Yeah.
And so you can see from this how you basically you're getting slow motion. It's giving you,
Hmm.
although it might be, 30 seconds, a minute, 10 seconds, 90, whatever it is, it's giving you the opportunity to take as many photographs as you want to get the one you're looking for. And I think that's and you just can't, we had a chat about this before, and I said that there are people that, try and reproduce this kind of thing using a wind machine, and uh, they the route really of let's try and slow it all down and try and do it all in the studio, but you just can't do what you do that way. And it's a testament to you, really, of how successful you are, because you, as I said to you earlier, if you've got a massive amount of work that you've done, you are really well known. Um, Probably across the world, you're well known for what you do, which is amazing in really what is only a short time. I know it's like
Hmm.
sort of 12, 15 years, but that's in a lifetime, that's a short time. And again, the awards you've won are quite staggering, actually. So let's just jump back before all this started. What made you pick a camera up?
Oh, I had always been fascinated with photography and cameras. Looking at portrait photographs, um, and watching family members use cameras, just taking basic family photographs.
Mm,
I remember when I was very young, one of my aunts came out from the East Coast. I'm born and raised in California, and she came out for a visit, and it was the first time I ever saw um, a really nice 35 millimeter camera. And she took some pictures, and they just left such an impression on me, you know,
yeah,
and something about this science, the art and science, and that's something that runs deep in my work. Photography is an art and a science,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
and combining the two, I just think it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
I think what's really quite amazing as well, and this is the bit that got me earlier, is they're not far off straight out of camera. Yes, you do some work, as we discussed. You do a bit of work in Lightroom, maybe levels and curves, perhaps, because you're shooting raw, so you do have to do something to it. Um, and that's it's not alien to me, but because of the way that I work, mine's huge amount of work in Photoshop. It's what I do, but to create the work that you do with very little work in that. Um, that's such a testament to just how damn good you are with a camera. And so that's why I'm asking the question of, when did you start? When did you pick a camera up? So my next question in that line would be, okay, you've got your underwater, you've got the idea of this. What was before? What came before this? What were you doing before you suddenly went, I'm going to be doing this? What was the spark between the two? And were you doing anything along these lines beforehand?
I would have loved to have been a photographer earlier than I picked it up, but that wasn't really in the cards. I needed to have a practical job where I could make a living and support myself. So for 20 years, I was a dental hygienist. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
For 20 years. Yeah. And
Wow.
then when I had my children, so when I was in college, I took a photography class, and I really struggled. I really struggled. I just couldn't get the math of it.
Hmm.
And the way the teacher taught it, which is pretty common, it was very math heavy. And it wasn't till years later when I realized, well, I just learned differently. A lot of people learn differently. And so giving myself the grace to learn the math of it in my mind as shapes rather than numbers, then I was able to figure out how to use my camera effectively. But really, it was when I had my children. I have twin daughters,
Oh,
and when they were born, of course, as a new mom, you know, I take a million pictures of them, and it's like, okay. And that was exactly when digital photography was starting to become accessible to consumers.
yeah,
My daughters are 26 and a half now. So it was it was then that really I could acquire a digital camera. And I started with little point and shoot, and then, oh, this isn't enough. And then, you know, got more and more, you know, Canon Digital Rebel, one of the very first ones, and then moved up from there. So um yeah, it was going from, you know, this is a hobby to I started photographing then friends' children's and families, and I did weddings for a while. And, you know, like a lot of portrait photographers do, just trying to figure out what made me happy, where I wanted to be. And when it got to the point where I was making more money as a photographer than I was in dentistry, then it was time for me to retire from that profession and start full time as a photographer.
excellent. Oh, well, that's something I definitely didn't know about the dental hygiene. I had no
Yeah.
clue on that. It, yeah, isn't it interesting how I found that the thing about the creative when you start doing fantasy type work that we both do, it allows your brain to run wild and actually come up with some amazing ideas. So, okay, we've got the yeah, we're taking pictures, we're doing the portraits, we're doing everything else. Where was your kind of eureka moment that said, "I'm going to get in the water and I'm going to actually"? So, is it going back to what you said earlier when you were sitting on the bottom of the pool thinking, "Oh, I could do some work under here," or did you have the idea of creating mermaid for fairy type pictures anyway?
No, no,
Right.
it was strictly the feeling of being underwater and how quiet and still and calm it was. Um, when I'm underwater, you know, obviously I'm holding my breath and I can hear my heartbeat start to slow down. And it's you know, it's one of those things you kind of have to experience it to understand how it
Yeah.
feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have done the I've done the Epsom salt chamber, and quite frankly, it was, you lay there for a half an hour to an hour, and I can see how calming that is. I mean, I kind of peculiar. I felt like I'd been drinking actually when I came out. It was peculiar. So Lisa, who runs Flux, always watches, of course, and she has. There you go. Absolutely amazing work. Love, love. She's an absolutely fantastic curator. Really knows her art well. Puts this exhibition on every year. I think next year will be my sixth or seventh time I've done it, but calls it her Flux family, and it is too because she really cares about the artist that she brings in. So we've kind of had the idea of the single mermaid underwater, but here we've also got two people now. I'm imagining that that's not as easy as it looks having two people in the water at the same time. It's a
Not
fantastic
at all.
image. No, it's a fantastic image. Absolutely superb. Um, but yes, I can imagine it. I mean, you're so let's just for a second, let's just talk about lighting because um, you know, I know because again, I've done a bit of research. You don't use strobes. You have lighting that you can control, but it's fixed lighting. So,
Mhm.
um, but how? So, do you get to a point where you know exactly what to do every time, Or you get two people underwater like this, you take your first shot, you have a look at it and think, need to move my lights, need to change this. What, or do you know exactly what you're going to be getting from where you place your lights and where you place them in the shot?
Yeah, I'm working on a backdrop in the water, and it's not very wide.
No.
I can't move. I don't move the lights around. I move
Right.
the model.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that
and my
makes sense.
intention with the lights, for the most part, is to light their face. Sometimes I'll
Yeah.
use a hair light, but it's to light their face,
Yeah.
really.
So
So it's
if you
getting them close enough to that light to be able to
right.
light their face.
So if you are doing something like this shot in particular, let's say, um, give people a bit of a sense of how long something like that takes as a shoot. Are you talking about a couple of hours before you get what you're looking for? Or do you sometimes think, uh, well, okay, they've gone to all this trouble. I've got the shot that I really need in the first 2 minutes, but we'll keep shooting just to make everybody feel like they, yeah, I mean, I know because I know what I do, but I'm just interested because there's so much going on in this picture that needs to
Mhm.
be right. So, how many shots would you take, for instance, do you just roughly would you take to before you got something that you go, yep, I've got it.
So this particular image was taken quite a while ago, and of course, over
Mm.
time, I've improved how I work.
Hmm.
Um, but I also have two very, very capable people here. Jessica is one of my favorite models. She's very accomplished underwater model and artist and costume designer. I mean, she can do it all, and she's just a lovely, lovely person.
Hmm.
Um, and then he is a professional. Well, I don't know if he's a professional bodybuilder, but he's a bodybuilder. And
Yeah.
he and his brother have a YouTube channel called Buff Dudes that is hilarious. They're really funny. And they're just encouraging fitness. They're encouraging fitness. And
Yeah.
I've photographed both of them, and they're wonderful, warm, just really fun people to be
Mm.
around. So the biggest problem here is with his muscle and bone density, he's going straight to the bottom really fast
Right.
every time.
Yeah.
And Jessica is very fit. So generally, she's pretty neutral buoyant. But with this particular mermaid tail, the it's fairly buoyant. It has a
Mm.
neoprene lining, and so we had to put a number of weights in it to weigh down just the tail itself. So it's just the science of figuring out how to get them to be able to both be underwater at the same time without struggling. Um, and obviously they did it. Now, my goal always, always is to photograph the people as they are first and foremost. So I'm looking for facial expressions and body language.
Hmm.
So once I capture that, then it's wonderful when all the stars align and all the fabric and the hair, the wigs work as perfectly as the people do. But I'm never going to overly torture a model by having them do it over and over and over again to get everything right and the fabric right. So if I have to patch in some, fabric from a different shot, I have no problem doing that. It's all about keeping the model relaxed and happy
Yeah.
and feeling really good about what they're doing. Now,
Yeah.
photo shoots generally, a couple hours goes by very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And as long as they're feeling good and they're happy, we keep going. But I will tell you with certainty that models lie to photographers. They do. They want to make us happy. And all the time, my models will say, they'll be shivering, and I'll ask, "Oh, are you cold?" And they'll say, "No, I'm fine. Let's keep going," because they want to. They want to keep going. So I
Yeah.
always have a safety person that's right there with them, right outside the water, just right above them to help them come up. and will keep an eye on them and let me know, give me just a gesture like they're cold. And they're not going to tell you that they're cold or they're tired or whatever it is. And so at that point, then I can say, oh, I'm getting cold or I'm getting tired. Is it okay if we wrap it up? But, for the most part, at this point, I've been working with I have my same favorite core group of models that I've been working with for a number of years now. And it's not just that they're beautiful and they're very capable of doing this. I really enjoy their company. I enjoy spending time
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
So, but they've gotten far better at saying, okay, we can do this one or two more times and then we're done. Which is really good because ultimately my goal is to capture them being comfortable and relaxed underwater.
And that, to be honest, I mean, that's very similar to me. Although I'm working in the studio, the model has to feel safe. They have to be
Yes.
completely comfortable for you to get
Yes.
what you're looking for. And
Yeah.
that's why, again, I really do work with people who absolutely are creatives themselves, but it's primarily they understand exactly what you're trying to do. So you're kind of
Mhm.
in a similar way to me. You're sort of directing a film. This is
Yeah.
this you're creating a story
Mhm.
in that. Now, uh, I've brought this one up for a reason. They always used to say when with the photographers, "Oh, put a bit of red in the picture." That's the thing that draws everybody's eye. But this is a real statement to me because of that. Her hair, uh, brilliantly choreographed, if you like. There's a haunting look about her. She's kind of looking over her shoulder as if to say, there is that real. You almost get a feel that she's got something quite seriously going on, and it's such a powerful image. Actually, not as um, busy is not the right word, but in terms of color, you got that beautiful white going into the grey of her dress, and then suddenly this vivid color of her hair is such a beautiful image. Um, how did
Yeah.
that? And is this again? What's your input here? Do you? Does
Well,
she?
this shoot is very different. This is
Mm,
a private commission.
right.
And I do a limited number of private commissions every year where people pay me to
Yeah.
photograph them.
Mm,
I generally do not share those images
no.
ever. However, Alexis here, she gave me permission to
Mm,
share. She wanted to share online. So
yeah.
I did that. This
Mm,
is her natural red hair. She is a
it's
redhead and she's beautiful freckles. I mean, she's just gorgeous,
yeah.
obviously, and she wanted to share this, so I did. And this is actually, I think, a not even completely finished edited image, but we wanted to get it shared as quickly as possible. But um, obviously, she's very beautiful, so can't go wrong there.
It's such a but it's such a powerful image with that almost
Hmm.
single color. It's a proper statement. I absolutely love it. It's such a clever
Hmm.
idea. So when you are doing a commission shoot like this, is it your idea or is it
No.
no? Okay.
Now, when it's a commissioned shoot, I want their input.
Yeah.
Obviously, I
Okay.
have a style that I photograph in, and I'm not
Hmm.
going to change my style.
Hmm.
But and people come to me for my style. My style is very
Yeah.
uh, painterly look. But no, when it's a private commission, I ask them for, what is their inspiration? What are they looking for? And we have a long conversation about it. Yeah.
So I'm not going to go in too deeply into technique. Although to be fair, whenever I'm interviewing an artist who either uses acrylic or oil, I do go into technique quite a bit. But that's
Mhm.
primarily because I don't know enough about it to actually I want to know about it. But bearing in mind what we've already said about Lightroom and how you work, your painterly technique, are you of the I do so when I do mine, I do it in camera raw. That's how I get the painted look that I'm looking for. I use camera raw to do that. I used to use the sort of Nick plugins to try and get the effect I was looking for, but I get a much more artistic look, if you like, by using camera raw. Are you along those similar lines to get the all painted look, or do you use something else?
So what I'm doing, I work two different ways. I have two different backdrops. One of my backdrops is black, and when I photograph on black, that's the picture. That's it. Obviously, it's a raw image,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm going into Lightroom and I'm working with, basically levels and color correcting, all of that. But when it's images like these, where you're seeing them in an atmosphere, I'm
yeah,
working on a neutral gray backdrop.
yeah. Same with me.
And that
Hmm.
enables me then I personally don't want to put anything in the water with them. I want that water to be crystal
Yeah,
clear,
yeah,
like drinking water.
yeah,
So if I put anything in the water with them, it's going to make a mess of the water.
yeah.
So what I'm doing then is I'm taking photographs I've taken of clouds, colors, textures, atmosphere, and
Hmm.
I'm going into Photoshop and I'm layering those
Yeah.
photographs over the images
Yeah.
to give depth and dimension and narrative, to give story.
Yeah.
They're obviously have a very different feel
Mhm.
depending on the color and the texture and the type of photographs that I'm creating this world for them to live in. And all of these photographs, like these photographs of the clouds, there's probably 15, 20 layers around them, to the point where you can't even see the ones anymore. They're in the background.
Mm.
However, all of those photographs are meaningful to me. I was somewhere special. I was with someone special. I was doing something that becomes a memory. So every single one of these images I look at, and I have memories. I have memories of a time or a place or people who are very important to me, and no one else would ever know, but I know. And it gives to me, I'm giving that model, that character, or that model, a world to live in forever that is beautiful and special and loving and caring and caring. And and only I need to know that. Nobody else needs to know, but I know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's
Yeah.
it is, and it's true. I mean, I always shoot on a 50% grey background, always.
Yeah.
Um, People say to me, "Oh, is it green screen?" No, because
Yeah.
you get green bleed. Don't want that.
Right.
But by shooting on a 50% grey background, obviously it's easy to much easier to cut people out. But you can drop an overlay over the top and paint the people back in really quickly,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
build your layers up. So you can actually just because of that 50% grey background, it gives you much more flexibility to create exactly what you're saying, create the depth that you're talking about. And that's
Yeah.
the one thing that I did notice, and I'll go back to this one, is the mermaid costumes are absolutely superb. Um, Often, when you see people that have done a mermaid shoot, and it's somebody laying on a beach, generally, um,
Yeah.
you can tell it's you can see the legs basically, sort of, because it's just not that great. But these costumes of the mermaids are so good. They're really, you they're believable, and I think that's down to the detail level of detail you're going into to create the work that you're
Well,
doing.
I don't think I can take credit for that. I work almost exclusively with a company called Finfolk Productions. They make mermaid tails,
Mm.
just above and beyond what I've ever seen and experienced with mermaid tails. The quality and craftsmanship of their work, they are pieces of artwork in and of themselves, as are the gowns and the tops and, the headpieces, all these other things I'm working with. But this company, Finfolk, it's twin sisters. And I have twin daughters. So immediately I was sort of drawn to them. But their level of artistry and care about what they do, what they produce. And then they are really smart businesswomen, really smart. And what they've done with their company, I think, is so phenomenal. And I admire them so much. So their work really enhances what I do completely. I mean, I've always said, if it weren't for the models, the designers, all of them, I am just a lonely person sitting on the bottom of a swimming pool photographing nothing.
No, well, hold on a
Yeah,
second.
it's true.
Oh
I would
no,
be
hold
all
on, hold
alone.
on, hold on. You've brought all those people together. They didn't just suddenly you're sitting on the bottom of the pool and they've all arrived one day and gone, "Would you like to take our picture?" That hasn't happened. You've brought them all together. You've found the people with the thing, the company you just
Yeah,
mentioned with the bids. And I also know from your again doing a bit of research on your website, you really love using local family businesses, which
yes,
my actual main business. We're a family business. I run it with my son. Um, and I've always had a big thing about family business, and also um, I had a thing about we were talking earlier before we came on onto this on air um, about my book. Well, I had that printed in the UK because I got a thing about helping businesses that are local or part of this country. I could have saved a fortune having it printed
yeah.
in another country, but it's not. It's not about that. And I
Hmm.
so, talking of printing, let's have a little look and I remember when you posted about this on Facebook as well, that you are printing your own work and with the large format Canon. Um,
Hmm.
Now, again, I know I'm a bit of a control freak. There is no question of that, and I'm going to pose it to you that you potentially are as well because
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, I thought so. I didn't want to be quite as rude as saying you're a control freak, but this gives you the ability to control your prints. You're not relying on someone else producing your work.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I know you do a few metal prints as well. I have all my work printed on metal, so I am reliant on a company doing that. But this gives you the opportunity as well to make sure that what leaves you and goes off to your clients is exactly what you want it to be. Um,
Yeah, I've actually only done 2 prints on metal, and it was
mhm,
for, just recently. I found someone local who does a process that's different above and beyond what we normally get with a metal print, but otherwise, I talk people out of it all the time.
yeah,
A print on 100% cotton fine art paper is just leaps and bounds beyond with anything that with sub dye print, they can put on metal. So when you compare the two side by side, when you really see them together, there's really no comparison. So I talk people into going with an archival fine art print.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think that's probably one thing that we will differ on, because
Yeah.
I have mine all printed on metal because
Yeah.
of what metal gives my work. But then I can understand equally from your point of view um,
Hmm.
why printing on the archival paper does what you need it. And to be truthful, at the end of the day, it's whatever works for
Right.
whatever you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
and that yeah, it does make a difference. I waited. It was a Californian company that invented it, and I actually waited 3 years for it to come to this country because it was so expensive. I had to
Mhm,
wait for a company to bring it here to actually do it. But
mhm.
yeah, it's and also there's a lot of confusion too around metal prints. There are companies that say they're metal prints, but they're not. They're just bonded uh,
Right.
paper onto metal. That's not the same thing.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's. But I
yeah.
yeah, I'm more than happy with what I do. I have done some
Mhm,
archival prints in the past, but
mhm.
metal just happens to be my thing. But yep, we're not. Let's move on from that one
Yeah,
because
well,
here we've got
yeah.
some of your work on exhibition, which is really looks amazing. I love the frames. So
Mhm.
do you? Is that part of what you do as well? You choose the frames, you sort the framing out for it all.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's a big part of what I do. I'm obviously very inspired by the master painters, and
Yeah.
I have no
Absolutely.
talent or patience for painting.
Mm,
So, and I love working with a camera. I love being a photographer.
yeah.
So it's kind of combining my love of photography, but my photographs aren't traditional
Mm,
photographs. So I don't want to frame them like a traditional photograph.
mm,
They're painterly, and I want to frame them like a painting.
yeah.
And all the time, people walk up and they'll tell me what kind of paintbrush I used, or what kind of
Yeah.
technique, or what kind of
Yeah.
paint I used,
Yeah.
and I just let them talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, they're all photographs. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And that's
but printing them myself, if I would never have the kind of success I've had of turning this into a business and supporting myself with it, if I weren't printing my work myself. And just the level of control I have, the
yeah.
quality, I know that nobody else can print my work like I can.
No.
Yeah.
And that
And
so,
printing is a totally different skill set than photography. The
yes.
two have nothing to do with each other whatsoever.
Yeah.
They are totally different skill sets.
Yeah.
So I took the time to study, to get a mentor, to teach me color management, um, paper choice, printers, all of that, so that I
So
could print my work myself.
so how many did you go straight for a Canon or did you try other large format printers first?
No, I ultimately went straight for a Canon. I had tried to print for myself for like 12 years,
Mm,
always ending in disappointment every
yeah.
time. And I
Yeah.
spent so much time and effort and money
Yeah.
in printers and paper and ink, and just the frustration of never getting it quite the way I wanted it. It always fell short, no matter what I did. And I followed the instructions, to a T. And so I felt like a failure. And
Mm,
my goal always was to create a tangible, physical print.
yeah.
Myself on a special paper that had a weight and a texture and a feel to it, that it was substantial. So, over the years, feeling like a failure. And one of the things I was doing to try to improve myself as a photographer and was to enter international print competition. And I did that for a number of years because you get really great and really brutal feedback. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
helped me improve quite a bit.
Yeah.
But ultimately, as I did, improved, it's like, okay, the next step is to print these myself. And I had a very special image that I knew, you know, I had to print myself. And I tried and tried, couldn't do it.
Mm,
And so I reached out to someone in the industry and I said, look, here's the image. Um, if I can't print it myself, I will delete it. And and I knew she would be sensitive to that. And she said, okay, okay, okay. I got a guy. I got a guy. Here's his contact information. Get in touch with him, and he can help you. And at that point, I had, had I got a guys in the industry for a number of years tell me, honey, don't worry your little head about it. Let the big boys print for you. So that made me even more determined that I was going to print for myself. So I went and saw this guy and went with quite a chip on my shoulder. And he picked up on that right away. And he said, look, sit down, bring a file. I brought a file. He said, let me print it for you and we'll talk about it. He printed it for me, handed it to me. And all I could do was cry. I just sat there and wept over this print. And I knew it was a moment that would change my life forever. And it did,
Mm, mm,
to an extreme I never knew. Um, and I said, okay, this person I've never met before, who doesn't know anything about me or my work, was able to take my drive, put it into his computer, not do anything to it, hit print it, hand it to me. And it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It was
mm.
far beyond any print I ever thought that could be made of my work. And it's like, okay, you, I'm going to follow you to the ends of the earth, whatever it takes for me to get to do this myself. Because if you can do it, I know I can do it.
Mm.
And he said, yeah, absolutely, you can do it. And so, he became my mentor. And I just learned everything I could from him. And the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know.
Wow.
Um, and it, I'm at this point, what, 8 years into printing and still learning.
Yeah.
And, but I was able to print that image and I did get a very high score. And ultimately I achieved my grandmaster designation in this international print competition, which was my ultimate goal. And,
Mm.
nothing feels better than to achieve something like that. There's only 12 of us in the world that
Wow.
have ever achieved that. And it just feels amazing.
That that is amazing. Absolutely
Mhm.
amazing. God dear. It's this is what I said. You have you might be, in your words, an introvert. You might be that type, but actually there's an inner drive in you that says, no, I'm going to be at the best at this.
Mhm.
And that, yes, and look, we got. I knew we'd run out of time. Just knew we'd get to this point. And I want to share with people. I mean, I'll come onto your website in a second, but you've also got another range, and I want to talk about this because tarot cards. So,
Yeah.
what was it that pushed you down the? We got a couple of images here from them. What pushed you down the tarot card route? What made you think, "Oh, I'm going to do some tarot cards"?
It's something I had thought about briefly, but then two people I had worked with, two models, um, Rachel and Griffin, separately approached me with it and said, this is something you should really think about doing. And I didn't know much about tarot at all. I knew what most people know, which is misinformation. Um, and the way that they each talked about it so passionately, it's like, okay, I'm gonna look into this. And I had a very large solo gallery show in October of 2019. And at that point, I gathered a group of models and creatives that I worked with. And I had a private dinner for them at the gallery before it opened one day, and thanked them all from the bottom of my heart and said, I would like to do a tarot deck if any of you are interested. And there was overwhelming response, yes. And then we all know what happened at the beginning of 2020. So for me, it was okay, well, I can announce that I want to do a tarot deck. I can talk to, these people about it. But if I never actually start the project, then I can never fail. So I was just going to put it off forever. But when the pandemic started, and I started to see social media posts, and then talking to and messaging with some of these creatives, they got very depressed very quickly. If you're making gowns and headpieces for large events, all of their work disappeared overnight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, this is really bad. This is, terrible situation, but also I've lost my entire profession.
Mm.
And so I said, okay, let's do a thing. Let's do it now. Let's just do it now. We knew that, being in a swimming pool, there's not a lot of chlorine, but a little bit. We're outdoors. There's a breeze, there's sunlight. We knew that we would be safe as far as a virus goes. We still wore masks. We kept at a distance. The worst part is we couldn't hug each other.
Mm.
Um, but, very quickly, then everyone had free time.
Mm.
So in 2020, I did all of the photo shoots for the 78 cards of the tarot deck. And I made 79 ultimately. I did all the photo shoots that year. The following year, I did all of the editing. It took 1 full year, full time, working on it to do all of the editing. And then the following year, it took a full year to get it printed the way I wanted it printed. I couldn't print it myself. I printed one deck myself just so that I would have that. But I knew that I had to get it mass produced. And when the models, I was working with them, all of them said the same thing. All we want, if you can just make a deck, we want a deck. It's like a piece of cake, no problem. That's easy. Well, when I started researching having decks printed, everyone prints on plastic. And I
Mm.
couldn't bear the thought of this project being printed on plastic. So I wanted it printed on a 410 GSM fine art paper. I mean, I have it here. I
Yeah.
wanted it to feel a certain way. I wanted a rose petal lamination on it so that these cards would be durable. So they're flexible, they're durable, but it's not plastic. And they have just a feel and a weight, that all the things that I wanted. The color accuracy, I worked with someone at the factory directly to make sure that it was exactly what I wanted. The design, everything. I worked with another artist to create the design based on my story that I had about it. And the box, everything, it was just so important to me that
Mm.
it was all done correctly, exactly how I wanted it as a piece of artwork. And it was a tribute to all these people I worked with, who I photographed. They're what made this so special. So it was the least I could do, was do the best I could for them and for people who love tarot. I'm not a tarot reader. I'm not. I appreciate the story of tarot, the major arcana. I appreciate the story very much. But I'm not a tarot reader by any stretch.
So have
So
you had anybody do a tarot reading for you with your cards?
well, actually, before I started, I had a number of people say, "Oh, let me do a reading for you." And I said, "No, no, nope, nope, not going to go there." And Rachel, one of my models, Rachel here, she did a reading for me on her own and she sent it to me. And I wrote a book to go with this. It's a 50-page book, and it's a PDF download that comes with the deck. And I included her reading for me because it was so beautiful and inspirational, and it really helped tremendously.
Mm.
So, but no, I want people to use these knowing how special and important they are, not just to me, but all these people involved.
Yeah.
Um, and do readings for themselves.
And this
Yeah.
is something that I say a lot, is that all the people that I photograph, all the people that are in my book, they're immortalized. That
Mhm.
particular period of time, that's them. They will be that person forever. And I think that again, when the difference between people like us that are photographic artists and artists is you are capturing a moment in time that's a split second. It's,
Yeah.
it's what, 250th of a second or 125 of a second, whatever,
Yeah.
but you're capturing that moment in time that then becomes an image that lasts a lifetime. So, doing something like that, it's quite, we've never spoken before. In all the years we've been friends on Facebook, we've never spoken before, but
Mhm.
it's quite amazing to me how our minds are really quite similar in the way that we
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
about our work and how we want our work to be seen and perceived. And also, I've got people. Look, I've got people in my work who have since passed away,
Mhm.
but as far as their families are concerned, they're still there because they're in a living, breathing thing. Effectively, it's really
Right.
quite an amazing. It's an amazing way of working, and I mentioned there's a lot of artists now that I've interviewed over the last few months since I started doing this, and everybody has a story. Everybody has a story as to why they've become an artist, what's made them do what they want to do, and I personally didn't think I would end up being a photographic artist. I was a photographer, but I realised that the camera just becomes my tool,
Mhm.
and I fully appreciate there are way better photographers out there than me because I don't take a finished shot. I'm taking bits because I know where they're all going to go when I put them together. And whereas you're pretty much taking a finished shot. I'm just going to bring your website up because I did say that earlier, and I want people to see. You were talking about photographing on black, with a black
Mhm.
banner, which your website does actually show because this is happening, when you log into it. But
Mhm.
also, you've got all of these different pieces of work and things that you can go into. The tarot collection is here. You can click on that. Um, I said this to you earlier. It's a fantastic website. Really, really well done. Fantastically produced. And uh, but and I said to you, it must cost you a fortune. Uh, and you said to me, it's Shopify.
Yeah, it's Shopify.
Yeah.
It's
Which,
Shopify. I love Shopify. I
well, yeah.
tried different websites, all kinds of different ways of doing commerce because I do commerce both in person as well as on my
Hmm.
website. Most of my sales are primarily through my website. Yeah, but once I found Shopify, it's like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm good. Because I have my website through it. I can do my newsletter through it. All my shipping labels, my accounting, just the accounting and sales tax and getting all that taken care of every year. I'm in California, very strict about sales tax and making sure because it's different in different counties and different states. So all of that is taken care of for me.
See, looking at this, we've had an hour now and we've scratched the surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing, and I'm I was so excited about doing this interview, and I'm so chuffed that I have actually managed to get you on. And all right, I mean, I suppose I'm being a bit of a fangirl really in this respect, but I think your work is so good. Um, and I'm really so grateful for you to coming on. But you can see, I think, I don't know, there just seems to be so much on here that people have got a choice to look through, decide what they want to buy, and well, I'm guessing like me, you ship internationally. It's a bit of a
Mhm,
pain sometimes. It can be. I think my most expensive place to ship to is Australia and New Zealand, but it's
yeah.
tends to be, yeah, quite tricky. But you can see on here. So do you the oh, I'm just going to find them again. The tarot collection. So are you um, selling that as as you've just shown us, because these are obviously individual prints from it, but are you still, do you have any left, or are they all sold?
So the tarot decks themselves, like I said, when I first started, it's like, oh, I can make decks easy, piece of cake, but I wanted them a very particular way. I didn't realize by wanting them a particular way, I had to order 1,000 decks.
Yeah,
I
this is the
didn't
problem.
didn't know that, and I had to
Mm,
fund it myself.
yeah, same as me and
So
my
I
book.
did
Mm,
that. I
mm,
did. I took all of my money and I invested and I purchased these 1,000 tarot decks. I've sold over 500,
mm.
putting minimal to no effort into selling them. I don't want to mass market. I feel very strongly that these are special, and I only want them to go to people who truly value um, the craftsmanship that went into it, not just mine, but all the people involved. So they've been selling organically, and I feel really good about that. So I will, I've had them for what, a year now, and I'll just continue to sell them as they sort of get out into the universe. So I
S-
should really, a lot of photographers say this, I am terrible at social media. I'm really bad at keeping up on it. One of my goals for next year is to try to be a little more thoughtful about sharing the work. It's not about selling it as much as sharing it,
and this,
and
yeah,
that will get it out there.
and it's a similar thing. I've we spoke earlier. My book is 1,000 copies, again for
Yeah.
similar sorts of reasons, but they are limited edition. There won't be any more.
Yes.
1,000, that's it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you're pretty much selling this for a similar price that I'm selling my book.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm when I finish talking to you, I'm buying one of these. One of these is coming
Oh,
my way. Absolutely. They look absolutely fantastic. And it gives me a piece of your work, which will be something I will absolutely cherish. Um, Cheryl, thanks so much for coming on. We've gone well over time, uh,
oh, thank you. Thank
but
you.
I've absolutely loved every second of it.
And I've
Really.
always, like, from the time we met,
Mm,
virtually met, I had a sense that we had a similar creative spirit.
yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely have, and we talked a little bit about that because I'll refer to it as the dark side. It just, I've one of my things has always been that if you, the saying, you got to think outside the box, but if you think there is a box, already too late. And actually,
right.
that cage or that box is
Yeah,
just your ability, and the more you learn, and look what you've done with your printing by learning to do that, suddenly that world has got even bigger for you, which is, yeah,
mhm.
absolutely. I'm definitely going to have you back on when you
Sure.
get, just tell me what are your plans over 2025. What kind of things have you got, you got coming up, exhibitions and things like that?
I will be doing a little bit of traveling towards the beginning of the year, supporting, printing education. Um I spend my summer, all of July and all of August, 7 days a week in Laguna Beach at the Laguna Beach Festival of Arts, where I can sell my work in person and show and share it. It's a juried show, and it is an unbelievable opportunity to meet and talk to people from all over the world every single day for 2 full months. So it's a huge time commitment, but totally worth it.
So
Um,
when was that again? Sorry, when was that?
all
What
of
time of year?
July, all of August.
July and August. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So, it's great, but it's exhausting.
Mm.
And I'd like to do more shoots. It's hard because that would be my primary shooting season, and it's 7
Yeah.
days a week.
Yeah.
But this past year was full of challenges. Um, I've got a family, parents, daughters I love more than anything in the world. They're more important to me than anything. So if they have needs, I absolutely need to be there for them. And as my parents age, I want to be available to them for whatever they need. And so I kind of have to leave a certain amount of my life up in the air for them, which is fine,
Mm.
absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Marvelous. Well, I've got the page up to buy the tarot cards, so I'm going to do that. Don't
Oh,
run
thank you.
away. I'm just going to switch you off. But
Sure.
Cheryl, thanks so much for
Oh,
coming on.
thank
I'm
you.
just going to say goodbye to everybody. Have a quick chat
Sure.
afterwards, and then
Okay.
fantastic. Thank you very much. It's been
Bye,
marvelous.
everyone.
So there you go. I'm still waiting to hear for next week's artist, if they're available, and it would be a pre-recorded one because I've got my work Christmas party next next Thursday, so I will be not in a fit state to be doing this kind of thing next week. But yes, and that will probably be the last one anyway, leading up to Christmas. I hope you really enjoyed tonight's show because I've loved it. It's a shame that Cheryl's the other side of the world, really, from us. I'd love her to exhibit at Flux, but yeah, I really enjoyed tonight, as I said. So if I don't see you next week, and what I might do is put a compilation together of all the ones I've done so far and put that on next week. But if I don't see you next week, have a fantastic Christmas, everybody, and we'll be back in the new year if not. And thanks for watching. Catch you soon.